Now the biggest fight in the world happened. It isn't nothing to say, hey, Joshua, me and Fury about to get this thing going on, baby. We about to see who the biggest and the baddest in the world. One champion, one face, one name. Something you was a coward to do in your home country.
No,
well, if he's right here, if he was right there, you tell him to look at this one. I'm looking at you right here. You was a coward. You was a coward. And you know this. Your whole team know this. Each and every last one of you said different things over and over. You manipulate. You contradict.
I think we've seen a different side.
Artists, out of all these people put their hard-earned money into this. This is an emotional sport. Of course, I'm going to show all emotional because enough is enough. It is what it is. If you didn't want to fight, just say it. Barry already told y'all, the 6 to 8 proper career plan is the one in it from the start. So don't drag these people along.
Wow.
And Frank Warren already got it in your butt. You know.
I think we might have seen.
You know, they're selling y'all wolf tickets, people. You're eating them right up.
Hey, pussy, are you still there?
I back. Trust me, I back.
But I'm not impressed by your performance.
You'll do nothing. You'll do nothing. Shut your fucking mouth, you'll do nothing. You'll do fucking nothing. Not one of you will do nothing.
I'll tell you what, bro. You know, I was out there, I was fighting all the hitters, bro. You ain't fought no hitters.
Come on, guys. Normal.
I'm not saying I would fight you. I would kill you.
John, do you think I'm just gonna sit there and let you kill me, John? I mean, really?
No, don't be scared, homie. I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody. The double champ does what the fuck he wants.
I am gonna beat you into the living death. I mean, maybe that's your job, but where I come from, you know, people like that get slapped.
That's fucking illegal.
Nick Diaz, you just shook up the world. How's that feel?
Hey, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
Yeah, this is a simulated death match. And you haven't simulated anybody's death yet.
I said it last year. We're not here just to take part. We're here to take over.
What is the game plan going in against him?
The game plan is you go in there, hit him with some good shit, don't get hit, and come home with a pocket full of cash.
Who the fuck is that guy?
Everybody's on steroids. The whole UFC, everybody.
I'm gonna go home tonight. I'm gonna drink a Coors Light. That's a Coors Light because Bud Light won't pay me nothing.
Do you want to be a fighter? That is my question.
Any of you radio personalities think you want smoke? Call me Mr. Chimney. I want smoke.
Yes. What is up? MCR family, another daily edition of the show, live in studio, obviously on in the beautiful city of LA. We're obviously gonna be talking about LA for Wilder Fury. Obviously, if you were here very early in the show before the intro music, you listened to Wilder on I think it was Good Morning Britain or whatever it's called over there. You know, give a little shout out to AJ. Definitely gonna delve into that. Obviously, the press conference, which was today, opening up the press tour for Wilder Fury. Obviously, going to delve into that. And plus, it is review time. It is Monday, so George Groves versus Callum Smith, Jorge Linares versus Abner Cotto, Top Rank on ESPN, doubleheader, Yoran Cajas and Jose Uzcategui, plus tons of other stuff. Obviously, Bellator 206. We're going to get into the second half of the show, MMA. A giant saying, bruh, FA is powerful. Of course, FA, Ajabi, I probably pronounced that wrong. For the Brandon Figueroa versus Oscar Escudon PBC on FS1 card, which was yesterday. For anyone that wanted to see that or maybe forgot to see it, definitely go check that one out as well. And plus, obviously, any sort of breaking news, topics of the day, whether it be in boxing, MMA, whatever sort of combat sport we're going to get into. Let's chop it up. You can call in 323-870-4051. Press 1 to get in the queue. Number's right there in the bottom right-hand half of the screen. If you want to call in and you are international and you want to call in absolutely free, email me, mixedcombatradio@gmail.com. Again, email bottom left-hand of the screen if you want to see that and sort of spell it out. Email me, get a free international permanent call-in link that works just like Skype for anyone that is international and wants to see it. Shout out to Main Event Mark, Johnny, Eric Cruz, Gary in Dallas, Potential Lunatic, Real Nija, Santiago, Bomani. Who else? I think that's about it. And, of course, Rob. Shout out to everyone. Hope everyone's having a great Monday, even though it is fucking Monday. God damn. my kid's been sick like all weekend. Oh, it's been miserable. But anyways, that's not what you're here to listen to. You're listening to, obviously, the review of Groves, Callum Smith, all the fights this weekend. And let's get right into it because the fights were good. And we do have some breaking news to get to, and I do want to get to that news in a relatively quick fashion. But Groves versus Callum Smith was a fight that obviously you can check the media reaction show, which I did on Saturday. If you want to check that one out as well, get more of the more of a fresh perspective of it instead of a few days out. But in my opinion, it's from the first round on, we knew how that fight was going down. Like we knew that Callum Smith was going to eventually land the right hand in that fight, and it ended up landing the left hand, obviously, to really hurt him. But it was just a matter of time. George Groves instantly in that fight was in survival mode, and me and a few of our patrons on our Patreon-only show, patreon.com/MixedCombat yesterday, which is always on Sunday at the same time as this Monday through Friday show, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. in the UK. We were talking about the fight, and Coach Mitty over in the UK, a soon-to-be big-time pro boxer over there in the UK. Shout out to you, Coach Mitty. Definitely coming to do that interview with you, the in-depth interview,
I want smoke.
And he mentioned survival mode, and he was hesitant to use that term, but I'll use it. George Groves was in survival mode from the first round on. Callum Smith landed a good right hand early in that round that rocked Groves. It did. It shook him up, and you could tell instantly that Callum Smith, from that point on, was content with working at a very slow output, very methodical output, and just pressured him. He knew that Groves was going to make more mistakes than he was. And now it was a game of who's going to make the mistake first, and it was George Groves. He overextended himself with his 1-2 and got caught with that left hook to end it. And Callum Smith was setting up that shot throughout the fight. His game plan, his strategy, his tactic, I should say, of pressuring him, but not really being active and not trying to go on the inside, staying at range, and looking actually for the counter, even though he was being the aggressor in terms of forward progression. He was still looking for that counter. So George Groves, being a guy that is a little bit sloppy in terms of defense, he's always had that issue. His lead hand is always down. He doesn't bring his hands back up after he throws his combination. He is just a hittable guy. And Callum Smith having the reach, the height, he knew that George Groves was going to have to overextend himself to get close, to land that right hand of his. And Smith was content with allowing Groves to land that jab and throwing his occasional combination, and all in order to try to land that counter mid-combination of George Groves. And he did over and over again. It was a tough fight to score overall, and luckily we didn't have to go to a scorecard. It was in my opinion, like a slower-paced version of Canelo Triple G. Callum Smith being the Canelo, the version, obviously not having a knockout in that fight, but in terms of how it looked, like Canelo, Callum Smith was walking forward, throwing less volume, throwing the better shots, though, the heavier shots, the shots that were changing the perception of the fight. So shout out to Callum Smith, a guy that, I counted out. I picked George Groves to win that. So shots at me. I deserve that. Shout out to him. George Groves, what will happen to him? I think there's a lot of things that could happen for George Groves. I think James DeGale fight rematch is out there. Chris Eubank is out there. There's money for George Groves still. And Callum Smith, obviously I have probably a more of a minority opinion of Callum Smith and the fact that I think he should just immediately move up to 175 pounds. I think he looked unhealthy even in the ring. Just looking at his face, looking at it, how gaunt he looked. I would like him just to move up to 175, move up to light heavyweight. I think it would be a better weight for him overall. He's fought guys up there in the amateurs, a la Alexander Vajdic and Dimitri Bivol. So I am perfectly okay with missing the David Benavidez and Gilberto Ramirez fight to see Callum Smith move up to a healthier weight, who he will be probably more efficient and fight guys that he has some history with as well, and guys that, let's be honest here, it's not like Benavidez and Gilberto Ramirez are significantly bigger names and draws than Bivol, Beterbiev, Adonis Stevenson, Vajdic, Badu Jack. Let's just be completely honest here. Like, they're all equal in terms of drawing power. Like, Callum Smith will get probably an equal check for all of those guys, or close to it, a very marginal difference between them. So I think Callum Smith should just move it to 175, be healthy, and plus he'll still be giant for that weight class. We forget how big he is, and he looked just ginormous against George Groves in there. He will look significantly bigger than a lot of the guys at 175 pounds still. Let's not forget that. But again, salute to him. Chris Eubank Jr. also got a win against JJ MacDonald on the card. I've seen parts of it, and I have no opinion about it. That's about it for that boxing card. Moving on to the next one, ESPN plus a la Top Rank. Jose Uzcategui versus Esquil Medina, and he looked fantastic in there. I'm not going to say fantastic. He was obviously dominant, and by round 2 or 3, he went in cruise control and just worked his game at a very methodical output to where he was winning basically every round, and Medina just really didn't have anything to counter it. He was purely brought in there as a tune-up. It is interesting, though, that this was a one-off for Jose Uzcategui in terms of network deal. As far as I know, in my knowledge of the situation, per other reporters, on the scene, they were saying that this is a one-off, and that he'll go back probably to Showtime or Fox and fight Caleb Plant there on that network. Just interesting to see, sort of what will happen with a guy like Jose Uzcategui, who may be one of the most underrated guys in that division at 168 pounds, even though he came in at 172 pounds for this fight at a catch weight. But then again, it was a non-title fight, not surprised. Yohan Acas, though, had a draw against Alejandro Barrios, or Alejandro Santiago, and he just looked poor. Like, he was missing his patented left straight over and over again. He was just whiffing on shots. He didn't seem composed in there in any way or shape or form. He didn't adapt. He didn't change things up when he needed to, really, in my opinion. He just looked flat in there in every sense of the word. And plus, when your best shot just isn't landing, and I'm not going to say like it's getting blocked or getting, absorbed. No, he was just missing that left straight over and over and over again. And, shout out to Alejandro Santiago. He looked pretty good in there in terms of being a guy that we all thought was going to be a tune-up. He worked the inside game well, worked the combination game well, did not really leave Ancajas the room to work his straight shots, work that range of him. And again, what do we really have in Ancajas? I don't know yet. I know obviously he's been, built up to be the next Manny Pacquiao. I don't think that's true. I think that's kind of been obvious that that's not true. I know how Top Rank and ESPN are going to promote their guy. I get it, but it's clearly not the case for Ancajas. However, I still want to see him fight guys like Serkat Stor Rungsvi, who he will be in attendance for when he fights Iron Diaz for a one championship card this weekend, I believe on Sunday. I could be wrong about the exact day of it this weekend, but Serkat is fighting this weekend. Yohan Acas will be in attendance for that. That's a fight and unification that I still want to see. Even though he's coming off an awful performance against Alejandro Santiago, he is still a champion. So I will always accept unifications. The idea that I will not be accepting of a unification is ridiculous in the sport when so many champions do not unify. But again, flat performance from him. Jose Uzcategui outclassed Medina, but he looked like he was in cruise control after round 3. That's my really only critique of his performance. I feel like he could have got Medina out of there if he wanted to, and he just didn't. I felt like he wanted the rounds. But anyways, you guys can call in 323-870-4051. Press 1 to get in the queue if you want to give your take and opinions on these fights as well. We're going to move on to the PBC card and then circle back to some other cards this weekend as well, like the Devin Haney card, etc. Brandon Figueroa defeating Oscar Escadon via KO in the 10th round. I think it's safe to say that the Figueroa brothers, to me, are similar to, let's say, the Benavidez brothers for Jose Benavidez and David Benavidez. Coming out the gate, Jose Benavidez and Omar Figueroa were the ones that were obviously the most hyped. Omar actually won some belts. Jose Benavidez had a ton of marketing dollars behind him at first. And they both, obviously, for their own individual reasons, sort of fell off. And I think as a result, now they're, brothers that were in the sort of their shadow, David Benavidez and now Brandon Figueroa, they've really stepped up to, I think, eclipse their brothers' sort of small legacies, small respective legacies, I should say. Because Brandon Figueroa, he looks, obviously he has that Figueroa style of that mauling, old school, like dirty boxing style. You put your head on your opponent's chest and throw that, just a lot of combinations to the body. A lot of inside work without really clinching, just really good stuff overall. And Oscar Escandon obviously being, even though a faded version of what he was, it's still a good barometer for these guys, for these young guys, like a Brandon Figueroa, like a King Tug. That's a guy you want to see face, these young guys. You do, especially at this early stage for Brandon Figueroa, who was 16-0 heading into this. But he looked fantastic. His jab was on point. Beside his obvious, Figueroa style, which I think is a little bit better than his brother, in my opinion. The way he just slipped shots, almost like James Toney. Obviously not to that extent. I'm not, truly comparing the two. But he wants to sort of, roll with the shots, slip him a little bit more than Omar. Omar was a little more static in his stance, in his offensive approach. Brandon's a little more elusive on the inside. I do like that. And plus, he's just massive for this weight class. At 122 pounds, he is taller and bigger than probably anyone but maybe Ray Vargas, because Ray Vargas is also a giant for the weight class. But imagine, let's say, in a couple years' time, Brandon Figueroa versus Isaac Dogbe. Like, tell me that doesn't instantly get you going. Come on. Ray Vargas, another one. Let's be honest. Luis Neri on the comeback. We're going to talk about him later as well. There's names at that division. Daniel Roman. Brandon Figueroa has a bunch of all-action potential classics ahead of him if he's as good as he seems. And that beautiful uppercut knockout he had in the 10th round was amazing. If you haven't seen this fight, go watch it. I know it's a Sunday card, which probably means it didn't get that great of viewership, let's be honest, but definitely go back and watch it if you can. If you have, some sort of subscription to Fox Sports, just go to Fox Sports Go, and you can watch it right now and replay and watch all the fights on the card, except for James DeGale. James DeGale did get a KO in the 3rd round on this card, but it was not televised. I have not seen it. I have not really heard anything about it, but yep. That's all we have to say about that one. But let's get to some of the good prospects on this card, because there's some good ones here. Joey Spencer defeating Corey McCone. Look, obviously Joey Spencer's a very young prospect. He's 18 years old. He's 4-0. But he is a lot better than what his record says and the opponent he was fighting. Corey McCone had zero business being in this fight with Joey Spencer. Corey was 0-2-1. Corey has never won a professional boxing fight in his life. And you can probably get almost any guy off of a good gym, like one of the sparring guys in a good gym, and they would beat this guy named Corey McCone. I've never heard this guy before, and I hope to never see him fight again. Not to really, discredit what Joey Spencer did and what he was in there for, but we know, come on, like this was a bad opponent for him. And I understand he's 4-0. I understand he's going to get these opponents. And he looked fantastic in there, but it was rough. It was really rough to see a guy that the skill level and the disparity between them was just so vast that it was just upsetting. It really was. Even like guys like, let's say like a Shakur Stevenson, who has obviously beaten a bunch of nobodies, right? But the nobodies have been a little bit more durable. I think it's the best term. Corey McCone had 0 durability. Main event Mark saying Fox said he had 3 wins. I didn't catch that. Did they really say that? That is hilarious. God. Salute to Fox Sports 1 right there. F.A. Ajabi versus Nick Jones. Knocked him out in the first round. F.A. just truly being one of the most meteoric rising heavyweight prospects in the game right now. Like, obviously, like guys like Daniel Dubois, Joe Joyce, who we're going to talk about on this card as well. They sort of came into the pro ranks with some hype around them, right? F.A., I feel like, came out of nowhere. I feel like he had that huge knockout that went viral, and we're all now talking about him. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I do know that he is from a good camp where guys like Kenneth Boyer, who's sort of an on-beat writer, I forget what outlet he's working for right now. I think he's working for Sporting News today. He's sort of been on that beat, and he's probably noticed F.A. from very early on. But for all of us fans, I'm including myself in that incident right now, he went viral, and now we all are just loving this guy, right? Like, we all want to see F.A. on every card, I feel like. And to be honest, Nick Jones was a good opponent for F.A., also undefeated, 7-0. He was throwing some shots. He was not afraid of F.A. at all. And he was catching F.A. sometimes. Like, obviously, F.A. has some defensive lapses, and that's just probably due to his style. He is a little bit like a Joe Joyce, where he, a Triple G, a very methodical, fundamental style, but that does leave him to be hittable at times. Mike Garcia, for example, another guy like that, who obvious fundamental skill, but a little bit more static in their approach in terms of their just body movement. Head movement isn't really the number one thing defensively that he uses as a tool. He more looks to block shots, to parry shots, and then counter off of them. And plus, that right hand. God damn. Like, let's just talk about that right hand for a second. He may not be the best heavyweight prospect out there, but that right hand is probably one of the scariest punches that I've seen in some time, right? Like, even guys like Joe Joyce, Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua at this weight class, and Dubois, all of them have power. All of them have insane knockout power, right? We're all in agreement here. But F.A.'s right hand, like, it looks like it makes everybody in pain, like, when they're watching. Like, you can see the crowd when he lands a right hand, and they're grimacing with it. It's just insane what this guy is. And, again, out of nowhere, it seems. Maybe I'm wrong about that. If I am wrong about that, correct me in the chat, in the comment section. Call in 323-870-4051. But, goddamn, man, heavyweight division's amazing right now. It really is. We haven't had a heavyweight division this stacked with both good championship, elite, top 5, top 10 talent. And on top of that, amazing fucking prospects like Joe Joyce, F.A. Ajabi, Daniel Dubois, who are obviously going to be contending for championship, belt soon, I would assume. But let's get to Joe Joyce. Now, I'll be honest, I'm a little more critical of Joe Joyce, only because he has a real storied amateur pedigree. Even though he may not have a gold medal like some other, Olympic or heavyweights in the Olympics, he does have a little more of a long tenure in the amateurs. He has, I believe, over like 150 amateur fights. Compare that to AJ, who has around 40 or 50 amateur fights. It's drastically different. So I expect a little bit more out of Joe Joyce off the rip. And plus, he's been talking that shit. He's been calling out people like Luis Ortiz, Dylan White. I think he even called out Anthony Joshua at some point as well. Like, he's been calling out everyone. So I expect a lot from him. Now, against Igor Kalitsi, he, like Johnny says, he's a little bit flat-footed. He's a little bit slow. He's hittable. You go back and watch, let's say, the Alexander Usyk fight against Joe Joyce in the World Series of Boxing, which is like exhibition fights, intermediate between the Olympics and the pros. You can go watch it on YouTube, by the way. Definitely go do it if you haven't. The full fight's up there, especially with Usyk talking about moving up to heavyweight soon and fighting Anthony Joshua. Get a good perception of both of these guys and what they're capable of. But Joe Joyce is hittable, and when you set angles on him, have a really good lateral game, the guy that is walking in a straight line forward with really no head movement is susceptible to shots. He just is, clearly. Now, luckily, Joe Joyce has a chin. He clearly is a durable guy. I've never really seen a shot affect him in any way. So he's banking on his durability. He's banking on, okay, you might land a shot, but I'm going to land this combination to your body. I'm going to make you feel it. I'm going to make you upset. I'm going to make you in pain. So, the short term, yes, it may be detrimental to him at times, but the long-term game plan of him is, I'm okay with getting hit by your jabs, your shots here and there, because I'm going to land this shot. I'm going to land that shot over and over again. I'm going to walk you down. You can keep landing your shot, and maybe you win off of points, but I'm going to keep walking you down and landing my shots. And, it's going to be interesting to see, obviously, what his ceiling is. I don't know what his ceiling is, to be quite honest. It's hard to see. And the rumor is that he is fighting Gerald Washington on the Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury undercard. I really like that fight, so if that happens, I think that makes a lot of sense in the world. Potential Olympics saying Joyce can fight at pace for 12 rounds, will cause most problems. Yeah, for heavyweight, he has really good cardio. He's a pretty good athlete. He's like a Triple G athlete. Obviously doesn't have that quick, explosive, fast twitch muscle, but he has that cardiovascular system that is just apparent. He's a guy that can probably run a marathon, honestly, at his height and weight. He probably can with his cardio. Definitely go watch Joe Joyce, F.A. Agabi. They were just fantastic yesterday. And plus, heavyweight prospects like this are rare. And I feel like we have a ton of them right now. So salute to them. Let's move on to the Showtime card on Friday. Devin Haney versus Juan Carlos Borges. Not much to say here because I feel like Devin Haney didn't show us anything new. And maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe I'm a little bit critical about Devin Haney. But he didn't show me anything new in this fight. However, he was still impressive. His ability to work on the inside under pressure, even when he's seemingly not rattled. I feel like that's a wrong word to use. But there's times where the composure doesn't seem to be there. Like there's times where he seems to have or let the pressure of a forward aggressive fighter get to him at times, where he moves a little bit too much. In my opinion, where he can he can sit down on shots, work the inside game a little bit more because he's really talented in there. I don't think he's exactly 100% comfortable there yet. But he's an extreme talent. I mean, his athleticism, his speed, his accuracy is just insane. It's on a different level, in my opinion. And plus, at 19-0, it's getting close to that time where he needed to step up in competition. I don't know if they try to pull, let's say, like a Denis Shafikov up from 130. I know he went down to 130 pounds. He's no longer at lightweight. But that's sort of the guy you want to sort of see Devin Haney against. A veteran, aggressive, come forward swarmer. If Devin Haney can get past that guy, then yeah, I think he may beat the truth. But definitely just talented guy. Outclass Juan Carlos Borges. Again, if there's little things you can harp on, but still an extreme talent and prospect that I think anyone, if you're not paying attention to him, you need to be. I'm not going to bet anything else on that card just because, I'll be honest, none of the fights really were that intriguing, except for maybe the Sam Kalik versus DeAndre Ware fight. That was a really fun fight. Go watch that one as well. Two undefeated guys going at it, throwing a lot of combinations. That's about it, in my opinion. Okay, I thought someone was asking me a question in the chat. Let's go to the Facebook card on Saturday. Jorge Linares versus Abner Cotto. I didn't watch this live because I didn't care about it enough live. And watching it on replay, I was actually pretty sure I was right. Linares was just, in every way, shape, or form, better than Abner Cotto. Got a third-round knockout. Clearly faster, better in every way. I mean, it is Abner Cotto. It's not Miguel Cotto. It's Abner Cotto. But yeah, I don't have much to say. I don't know what really Jorge Linares can do at 140. I think he can fight a lot of these guys and give them good fights, and plus he's a veteran in the sport. He has some sort of cachet with the fan base. So, guys like Regis Prograis, Josh Taylor, Maurice Herker, Alex Acedo, Jose Ramirez. It would be good if they beat Jorge Linares. Absolutely. But I just don't see Jorge Linares really beating any of these guys. So I don't know what to really think about Linares going forward. Johnny saying, I forgot about the Facebook card. Oh. Lunatic saying, Facebook card, laughing face emoji. That shit will always sound lame. It does kind of sound lame, huh? Like, ooh, Facebook Live card. Well, Facebook's lame. Like, let's be honest here. Like, Facebook nowadays, in 2018, is for your grandmother, right? Or your parents if they're older, and they barely know how to work it. And they, I don't know if poking something. I don't have Facebook anymore, so I don't know. But again, shout out to anyone that's watching that card live. It was definitely not the best card of the weekend, that's for sure. But let's get into some not best news of the weekend. Clarissa Shields and Christina Hammer, a fight that we were all looking forward to. I gotta get the sad music out. It's upsetting. The fight's off, ladies and gentlemen. The fight's off. Christina Hammer has some sort of illness, so the fight will be off. Shields has said in a statement, and let me read it on her Twitter account, saying, very, very disappointed. I'll let my team do the announcement, but what I will say is, ... I want this fight 100%. I am not the one sick. I don't know the ins and outs of Hammer's condition, but she can't box till March, the doctor says. I'm still going to fight the 17th of November. Sad face emoji. God, this is just... I see a lot of people in the chat saying that she's ducking Shields. I really hope that's not the case, especially if there is a legit, sick, she is ill, she is sick, she has some sort of illness. I hope there's some legitimacy to that. That's nothing to sort of joke about. It is weird, though, that they already have, hey, should box in March, especially with, an illness. The boxing scene article specifically said the word illness. Shields said condition. If this was an injury, it's one thing, right? If, let's say, she broke her hand, right? She needs a few months to recover. That's completely fine. Okay. We can put off the fight. And plus, that's a reasonable, that's not a dog ate my homework thing. That's a legitimate excuse as to why you may not be able to fight on a certain date. And plus, also have a quick turnaround. November to March is still a relatively quick turnaround, so it's not a significant injury, and doesn't seem to be an injury. So I'm just curious as to what it is. I'm not implying that I think it's fishy, that I think she's ducking. I know some people are in the chat saying that. I'm not implying that. Especially since Hammer always seemed to talk that shit. It's one thing if she was always, let's say, very quiet and unassuming and not really wanting to get into it with the very charismatic, energetic Clarissa Shields. But Hammer always seemed to want to, talk that shit. So, her ducking doesn't really make sense to me. Just being completely honest. Main event Mark saying, I'm depressed. Mark probably echoing what I'm saying that I think it must be a legit. Hammer doesn't seem to be a duck. Hammer was chasing Shields. Yeah, let's not forget, Hammer was the one that wanted Shields to move down and wait and fight her. So it would just seem odd if there was an actual like mental like I am scared of Shields. Like Hammer doesn't seem to be that person to me. It would be off character of her from what we just very the limited sources we have of what Hammer's personality and character is. It seems out of character. What doesn't seem out of character is the WBA throwing around titles like it's fucking nothing. Gerald Miller versus Thomas Adamic will fight for a WBA regular title, says his promoter, Dimitri Salita. So, maybe I missed something, and maybe I just don't care enough to actually look into it. That's probably what it is. I'll be completely honest. But we had a regular champion, right? Did they pop for PEDs or something? I'm probably forgetting this or vaguely remembering it, but it just seems weird to me. And plus, it just seems like they want to throw Big Baby a title, Johnny's saying Big Baby pissing me off. Oh, talk that shit, Johnny.
I want smoke.
Call in 323-870-4051. Press 1 to get in the queue. I definitely want to hear some breakdowns of the fights this weekend as well. Oh, fuck. You know what? I totally forgot to talk about something, which reminds me, because I talked about it on yesterday's show on patreon.com/Mixed Comment Radio. We're bringing it back to the ESPN Plus card on Friday. I'm deeply apologize. We got to do it. Joshua Greer Jr. Versus Giovanni Delgado. Look, Joshua Greer, if you're not watching this prospect, go watch him. Whatever you're doing right now, if you're listening to the show, if you have an ESPN Plus subscription, because we don't endorse piracy over here, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Stop what you're doing. Stop the show. Go watch Joshua Greer. Come back. Please. Just please. That is a guy that needs to have everyone paying attention to him. He has everything you want from a prospect. Great athlete, great power, good boxing IQ, charisma in and out of the ring. Just phenomenal performance. He was in complete control of that fight against Delgado. And when he wanted to turn it up and hurt Delgado, he did. The second he decided, okay, it's the third round, I've had sort of my warm-up, I'm going to fucking kick his ass. So that's what he did. Definitely go watch that fight if you haven't. Just really wanted to mention that before we moved on, because Joshua Greer Jr. is an elite prospect that really doesn't get the shine he should. And I think he just signed a Top Rank or ESPN in some capacity, so shout out to him trying to get that bag. Let's get into some fight announcements quickly before we head into the Bellator card and our MMA news of the day and wrap up the show. Again, if we have no callers, we're just going to wrap up after the news. I'm not going to stay around. I got a sick kid to deal with. But BoxRec Gray over at Twitter, one of the editors at BoxRec, saying new bout added to the ESPN Plus schedule on Saturday. Louis Neary versus Jason Kanoy. The return of Louis Neary, guys. Get hyped. And plus on the ESPN platform, you know how close we are to a Louis Neary Isaac Dogbe fight. Take my money. Just take my fucking money, please. Please take my money, ESPN. I will pay pay-per-view for that. Obviously, I'm not saying it should be pay-per-view, but I'm just saying that Louis Neary versus Isaac Dogbe on paper, how is that not fight of the year? Right? But shout out to Louis Neary coming back, after his PED shit, which I just don't care about. I'll be completely honest. Again, from BoxRec Gray, the World Boxing Super Series October 13th card, which is in 2 weeks in Russia, will now have a second tournament bout. I thought this was official already, but I'm glad it's confirmed by BoxRec. Andrew Zabita versus Ruslan Fafer, in addition to Zolan Tete and Mikhail Alayan. Two undefeated Russian fighters, and then obviously the undefeated Andrew Tabiti as well on the card. Definitely a good doubleheader. Yeah, that's all we have to say about it. Great fights. Can't wait to talk about them, break them down when it comes to that preview day on Wednesday of Fight Week next week, I think it is. And obviously our review day, which will be the following Monday. But keep an eye out. Obviously that would be on DAZN for all those that may not be clued in on that. But let's head into our MMA news and breakdown of the day. Bellator 207 on DAZN. Gegard Mousasi versus Rory MacDonald. Wow. Gary saying, why do you not care about steroids? This is not hitting home runs. This is knocking people out. Because Louis Neary, first off, his first case was thrown out, I think, for good measure. His second case is questionable. And I mean, come on. Like everyone in this sport, hold on, I have the soundbite here. Where is it?
Everybody's on steroids. The whole UFC, everybody.
Yep. I've battled for my issue. Here's how I stipulate it, Gary. I've stopped caring about individual cases as much, whether it's Canelo, Louis Neary, Billy Joe Saunders, whatever, because the system we have is completely fucked up. Between VADA, USADA, WADA, how none of them make actual decisions. They just test. It's up to individual commissions, which have no consistency between Nevada, Massachusetts, BBOC. That is my issue. So what I am more upset at, other than athletes taking advantage of a inept and corrupt system, is that inept and corrupt system. I am 100% more focused and more upset, and I will talk about that system more so than these individual cases. Because it's just tiring. It is. It really is. Canelo Alvarez and Billy Joe Saunders cases are almost identical. In the words of Mike Goldberg in the UFC, they are virtually identical. And yet I guarantee you we're going to get 100% different, diametrically different outcomes in those cases. Why? Because there's zero consistency across the board. Zero. And that is my issue with it. My issue isn't really with the steroids or steroid use or individual fighters using it or athletes using it. My issue is with the system. We have a faulty system, and on top of that, we have a real issue with miseducation about it. The casual fan, Gary, you must know this, can't tell the difference between a banned substance, a PED, a diuretic, a steroid, HGH, because all those things are completely different. They are different thresholds for each, different rules for them. Out of competition, in a competition. The intricacies of PED regulation is highly complex that I barely understand it. And I think I understand it more than 95% of, especially the boxing fan base. I'll just be honest. I'll be a little bit conceited on that point. I just do. However, I feel like I am not the way to educate the masses. I am not. It is up to the ESPNs. It is up to the Lance Pugmires, the Kevin Iolis. It's up to them, and they do a really shitty job of it. Or at least that's not their job. That's not their beat, to use a media term. They don't cover PD regulation. And to be honest, they probably shouldn't. There's experts for that for a reason. I always bring up Ian Kidd at Bloody Elbow for a reason. He is paid 100% to cover this topic. USADA, VADA, and WADA in combat sports. From the regulations to the judgments to the suspensions, that is 100% his job. He went to university to study this stuff. So I will always sort of stick to the experts. And unfortunately, that's a niche market. it's a niche sort of group of the fan base that will go to those experts and actually obtain accurate and credible information. Instead, we have people in the boxing media stick a mic in front of Victor Conte's face and peddle that as their expert. You know, a guy that has financial ties to some of these organizations directly that has obviously played into some of his opinions. You know, so until we have some sort of PD regulation reform, you know, some sort of streamlined, efficient system that's consistent across the board, I'm not going to really die on any of these individual hills for fighters, whether it be John Jones, Louis Neri, Billy Joe Saunders, Canelo Alvarez. I'll argue it, I'll make my points, and then I'll get off of it. But anyways, sorry for that tangent. I just feel like that was a really good question, Gary, and one that I get asked actually quite a bit. Potential lunatic saying this in competition, out competition thing is dumb too. Well, lunatic, I explained this on our championship round show yesterday on patreon.com/MixOnMyRadio. And I think this is probably the easiest sort of example. Alcohol, right? We all like beer, right? I really wish I had a fucking drum sound bite like da-dunch. And for the maybe half of you that get that joke, like you get that was good. But we all like beer, right? Alcohol is obviously banned in competition, but allowed out of competition. I think for obvious reasons, right? You don't want a fighter or an athlete getting drunk in the middle of them competing. But if they get drunk a week before their fight, 2 days before their fight, it has no effect on them, right? Right, we're all in agreement here. Same with marijuana now. Per the WADA code nowadays, they've changed that over the last 5 or 8 years or so. That's been a change in their system. Once upon a time, that wasn't the way. Marijuana used to be banned in competition as well. A lot of recreational drugs are banned in competition and banned out of competition for pretty obvious reasons. You know, you go down the list of any drug, cocaine, heroin, meth, like you go down the list, all of them are banned in competition, but not banned out of competition, and technically should not be tested for out of competition. It's a waste of funds. It's a waste of resources. You're testing for things that have no bearing and will have no punishment. It just seems like a character hit, to be quite honest, a la David Benavidez. However, VADA and WADA, and in essence, USADA in connection with WADA, because USADA is more directly linked to WADA, the World Anti-Doping Association or agency. And the differences between them is that VADA, per their rules and regulations, doesn't really follow the in and out of competition situation. That's why we have the David Benavidez situation come up. That's why we've had particular guys get popped for certain things that has sort of been blown over of recent note. Billy Joe Saunders, for example, should not have been tested for if he was being tested by WADA, which is the gold standard of anti-doping. Like he would not have been tested for that drug at all. So then this would not have been an issue for Billy Joe Saunders. And the difference is that VADA, even though they are licensed out in the contract, these commission heads technically follow WADA, technically speaking. So there's even a difference that for a la the BBOC, though they're a little bit more, again, in writing, in legal terms, obligated towards the WADA code. In essence, all these commission heads in the U.S., they follow WADA, and there's a difference between WADA and VADA. And it's just a clusterfuck. Like, that is probably the best way to describe it. It is complete 100% clusterfuck that just has zero accountability, zero consistency. But anyways, I really got off on a tangent there. I apologize. Let's get to the Bellator 206. Gegard Mousasi versus Rory MacDonald card in San Jose, California on DAZN. Gegard Mousasi, I picked him to win. I didn't think it was going to be this easy. For one, the size difference between the two was absolutely apparent. Let's not forget that Gegard Mousasi is a guy that went up to heavyweight and fought Mark fucking Hunt and beat him. Beat Mark Hunt. So at 220 plus pounds, he fought a 260 plus pound K1 world heavyweight champion in kickboxing and beat him. So at 185 pounds, which he is now in really probably the best shape of his career, against a guy that's never been at 185 pounds, this should have been expected. Like, there are weight classes for a reason. I made this point on Twitter, and I think MMA fans don't really understand it as well, just because there's less history of it. But for us boxing fans, we know that even going up 5 pounds, 7 pounds for another weight class can be a drastic change. Like, there could be question marks about your power, about how you can take shots, all this stuff at a new weight class. There is. And that's only 5 to 7 pounds, right? On average. But in MMA and the UFC, we're talking about on average 10 to 15 pounds of difference. Hell, sometimes even 20 pounds of difference in weight classes. You know, the jump isn't from 154 to 160 to 168 to 175. No, the jump is 155 to 170 to 185 to 205. They're just drastic jumps in weight. So Rory MacDonald coming up in the later half of his career to a new weight class against a guy that is, 14-1 in his last 15 fights, who is really optimal for that weight class, who is naturally a much bigger guy. We should have expected this. Not only that, Gegard Mousasi, technique-wise, he had everything to beat Rory MacDonald. Rory MacDonald wasn't the better striker of the two. He could not really initiate any of the grappling exchanges and get it to the feet. So he was stuck at the range of Gegard Mousasi. Mousasi was landing jab after jab after jab, and these was hard Triple G-like jabs. They bloodied up Rory MacDonald, and then Rory MacDonald, out of desperation, went for an Imanari roll. Obviously, round up on bottom. Gegard Mousasi landed some brutal elbows and finished it up in like the second or third round. Like, it was a quick night for Gegard Mousasi. It was dominant, and weight classes matter. Main event Mark saying "holy shit" with the nervous face emoji. And I think, again, people really don't understand the difference in weight classes we're talking about in MMA and how much we're asking of athletes when they move up in weight class. That's why, for example, when we talk about Randy Couture, BJ Penn, Conor McGregor, guys that have moved up multiple weight classes and won belts in the UFC, it matters more. There's a reason why that's only 3 people. Okay? Now 4 because Daniel Cormier. Though, let's be honest, though. That one's a little bit iffy. Doesn't really get the same punch. Just sorry, DC. Just being honest here. We're going to get to some more DC John Jones news, actually, after this, breaking down this fight card. Stay tuned for that. But, Rory MacDonald moving up from 170 to 185, 15 pounds in weight. That would be like Regis Prograis. Actually, no, this is probably a better example. A Victor Postal, a career 140-pounder, right? Career 140-pounder. Moving up and fighting, Esmeralda Laura, Austin Trout, Jarrett Hurd. It just wouldn't go down right. I say that, and I bet every single boxing fan listening right now going, oh my God, that would be a bloodbath. Victor Postal would die in there. And you are right. You are 100% right. And that's only 14 pounds of difference. That's not a full 15. That's not the extra pound of difference between welterweight and middleweight for MMA weight classes. So, I think for everyone that was picking Rory MacDonald, I think MMA fans need to sort of realize the difference in weight class and how much of an ask that is for guys to move up and fight the best guy basically in that weight class on your first fight and try to beat him when you've never done that. And that guy's been also at light heavyweight, at heavyweight. So, again, shout out to Roy MacDonald, Gegard Mousasi. Fun fight for as long as it lasted, even though it was rather dominant. Gegard Mousasi, what a talent, man. Guy has, near 60 pro fights. And that's a rarity in MMA. So salute to him. Co-main event, Quentin Rampage Jackson defeated Vanderlei Silva via TKO or KO in the second round. Actually, a rather entertaining scrap for two old guys fighting. I enjoyed it. I am completely okay with the fifth fight. I know that might be controversial, but it was fun. It was competitive for as long as it lasted. Again, it's two old guys fighting, so I'm okay with that. The only time I really care about old guys fighting is when they're fighting the young guys that they clearly should not be fighting. And that is not the case there, so bring it back to fight number 5. Why not? Douglas Lima versus Andre Korshchev, defeating him via technical submission rear naked choke in the 5th and final round. Kind of a ho-hum affair. Eric Rose saying Silva versus Jackson was great. It was fun. I saw people hating on it afterwards on Twitter, but that was a fun fight. If you really hated that, you're just a bitter person. Let's be completely honest. Douglas Lima versus Andre Korshchev, defeating him via rear naked choke. Lima, what do I have to say? Again, Lima's a finished product. So is Korshchev. So do I think he can come in here and beat everyone in this tournament? I don't know. I really don't. Though his mixture of striking, defensive wrestling, and grappling, it's pretty good. And plus, he's clearly the better fighter than Andre Korshchev. Andre Korshchev his only hope was holding on to Lima in the clinch against the cage and to sort of negate any offense from Lima, and that just didn't work. Lima was landing the better shots. His leg kicks were affecting Korshchev early and often, and then obviously he got him out of there with that just amazing submission, the final round of the fight. Great stuff from Lima as he advances in the tournament. Aaron Pico. God, salute to Aaron fucking Pico. Collegiate wrestling phenom. A guy that lost his first pro MMA fight via submission that got a bunch of hype. He is now undefeated since then, winning 3 fights in a row, all knockouts or TKO. Defeating Alejandro Higa, who was a former Bellator bantamweight title challenger, a guy that has nearly 10 times the amount of fights that Aaron Pico has. A skilled opponent, but just clearly was just outmatched. Pico's mixture of natural boxing skill, IQ, obviously with insane natural power, and then his wrestling base. His phenomenal collegiate wrestling base. He's going to be a force. He is going to be a future champion in whatever organization he chooses to fight in his career. I still think you should take some time, but he's something. He is something to watch. He's something to look forward to. One of the most exciting prospects in all of combat sports. I'll go on a limb and say that. He seems to be that. Lunatic saying, what is the production like on DAZN? There's some major buffering issues. That's about it. And again, that's my only complaint about that is really because of the price tag attached to it, compared to, let's say, ESPN Plus, which I feel never has buffering issues. That's really all it is. Good quality. But I would say this for the AJ card, rarely had any issues. For the Combates Americas card, 0 issues at all. For the George Groves, Callum Smith card, I think I had 0 issues for that one as well. For the Bellator card, I had a ton of issues for that one. A ton. I feel like every round of a fight, I had at least one moment of it buffering. Again, that's growing pains. It's new. It's its first month. I'm expecting that. But overall, I like the presentation of it. I like the layout of it. It's easy. You're just looking at it, like when you're on the home screen. it's just a better product than, let's say, ESPN Plus or Watch ESPN. It's just a better looking product, I'll say. But yeah, that's about it for that question. Let's move on to some breaking news of the day. Daniel Cormier is saying UFC. There you go. Daniel Cormier saying UFC wants me to relinquish the light heavyweight belt for Jones Gustafsson 2 title fight. Oh dear Lord. Fighters, this is why you need to unionize. My issue with this really is, why isn't an interim title good enough for the UFC? Because the UFC has been interim title happy. They've been throwing them around like it's candy. I feel like Jones Gustafsson is the obvious fight to have a interim title fight attached to it, with DC fighting Brock Lesnar in the first quarter of next year. Right? Like, this isn't rocket science. So I hope this doesn't happen. I feel like it takes something away from the winner of DC versus Brock Lesnar versus the winner of Jones versus Gustafsson, which is obviously probably going to happen. And I would really hope that the UFC actually makes an interim title fight. I know that might be crazy to say, but this case seems to merit it. So why not just throw one on there if it makes the UFC happy, if they just want a title belt around Jones or Gustafsson by the end of that fight. I think DC has a point. And also DC has been very vocal against USADA in the UFC as of recent. Good for him. He should talk out more. He has a very big microphone and voice in this industry. He does. A lot of people respect and value what DC says. Unfortunately, something that we have to get to, some more news. This sucks. This is not fun. The Sugar Show, aka Sean O'Malley, saying, "Hey guys," it's on his IG, by the way. Hey guys, let me get the sad music out. It's not dramatic music; it's sad music. There we go. Hey guys, Sugar Show here. ... I want to be the first to let you know about what's going on. As many of you may have seen, the UFC announced this weekend that they are no longer announcing potential violations of the USADA program because of the high number of unintentional use cases under the program, and are instead waiting until the end. I'd find myself caught up in one of these exact cases right now. Even though under the new policy my case would not be public right now, I feel it's important to be upfront and honest with my fans. I've been working with Jeff Nowinski at the UFC, and I believe that we already have identified a dietary supplement that would have caused this. We've sent remaining samples from the bottle I took to the USADA lab, and as well as a full sealed bottle. I'm told that the testing of these supplements will take as long as 30 days. I will continue to update you about all the findings, but I fully expect the results will be what I already know, that I did nothing on purpose. For everyone that follows me and was excited for my fight, I'm truly sorry. It hurts. I'll stop there. This sucks. This sucks, guys. But anyways, reasons like that. To sort of stitch back to what Gary was asking about, my sort of rant about PD regulation. Cases like this, perfect example. If this was followed by VADA, we would have heard, Shane O'Malley tested positive for XYZ. And that's all we would have known for a week or two. And then some sort of announcement would have been made, some sort of, preliminary decision would have been made by either the WBC or the state commission, and then we would have our decision. But instead, we have, hey, look, we're working with USADA, we're a little more transparency here. And again, USADA is not a white knight in this. They are not. 100% not. I have a lot of criticisms about USADA. However, this is a good trend, I think, in my opinion. It's one that should have been doing in the first place. It's like, the accusation or the announcement of, hey, this fighter popped for a banned substance or PED, that is like a murder charge in the combat sports world. It just is. Your credibility instantly gets shot. So I like the idea of, hey, let's figure out what it is first before we, go to the media, go to the fans with this announcement in the news. Let's have some sort of actual decision about it, some more information about it. Because if you're not going to have, the other way would be complete transparency, and that just is, I think, an impossibility for these business corporations. So this version, I like a little bit better. It might be just the best case scenario we have in the short term. Santiago, you are in the queue, but you have not pressed 1, so I do not know if you are free or not. So press 1 if you want to call in and get your points off for this weekend's action and all of the news of the day. Because otherwise, we're going to head out of here because there are no callers. But if you do want to call in briefly, very late notice, before we wrap up the show, 323-870-4051. Press 1 to get in the queue, or email me at mixedcombatradio@gmail.com to get a free international call-in link. Because otherwise, like I said, we're going to head out of here. Go take care of a sick kid. Hope everyone has been having a great day so far. I hope everyone enjoyed the fights this weekend as well. Anyways, I'm Matt, the Hipster Hunter. You can find me at Matt Hunter, MCR, all platforms. You can find this show, Mixed Combat Radio, on all platforms. You can find podcasts. Obviously, we are live on YouTube. MCR Radio Show on Twitter. Our new Instagram account, MCR Podcast, is up and running slowly but surely. I'm having some issues logging into it, but we do have some people trying to work it on the back end and who are trying to post content there, etc. So go follow those accounts to stay updated on all information for the show. Hope everyone has a great day. Like I said, hit the like button on the way out, share the show, subscribe. Peace.